find it amusing on one level that he constantly attacks me. I'm his primary target, and I'm doing so poor in the polls, according to everybody, right? Well, why is that? Why is he going after me each and every day? It's because he fears me, because I'm the only guy standing up to him. I think he is not going to be the Conservative Party's nominee. He's not a conservative, and he doesn't have a record that suggests he has a servant's heart to help people rise up.
Jeb Bush earlier today on CBS This Morning explaining why he thinks Donald Trump is attacking him. Now, according to the latest polls, Trump continues to dominate in the Palmetto State, and yet there's still a lot of affection for the Bush family in that state. And Trump's numbers have moved very little since he started attacking the Bushes. So who is going to benefit from this feud? For more, let's welcome in, I guess I call it the Carolina Corner, the conservative host of the Tara Show on 106.3 WORD in Greenville, Spartanburg, Tara Servatius, and from Raleigh, North Carolina, Republican media strategist and a member of Ronald Reagan's 1980 presidential campaign, Marc Rotterman. It's great to have you both back. Tara, what do you make of this Bush-Trump feud in South Carolina?
Well, let me tell you what, JD, people don't realize this. They think of South Carolina as this really red state, and it is. But what they don't realize is that the independents and the Democrats vote in our open primary, and our state party leaders have trained them to vote in the primary because they like to get liberal Republicans elected. That's why we keep sending Lindsey Graham back to the Senate, to the bafflement of the entire country. Now, they've rigged this system, and we're hoping it would elect Jeb Bush, but it may backfire in their faces if Trump can get these independents and Democrats who don't like the Bushes that much out to vote for him. Now, and there's really no way to measure this in the polls. That's what I think he's doing.
So that's interesting. The open primary sets up a different dynamic. Marc Rotterman, how do you read it? Is there a chance that the independents, the establishment leans on for guys like Bush embracing Trump instead?
Well, I think they could embrace Trump. I think they could embrace him because they didn't like the Iraq War. I also think the Reagan Democrats, who are conservative, may cross over. So I think it's a brilliant strategy if he's doing it on purpose or just because he happened to fall into it. But I do think that it may be working for him.
Well, it's very interesting. As a former South Carolinian, a guy who spent time down there in presidential primaries, the whole notion of just exactly the role the Republican Party of South Carolina plays. Now, Tara, in a very diplomatic way, you said they could be energetic. Sometimes that's interpreted as kind of establishment chicanery. Do you believe the establishment will try to get involved here for Bush or an anybody but Trump situation?
It wouldn't surprise me, JD. I'm going to put this politely. There's been a real effort over the last couple of years to weed out, by the Lindsey Graham folks in the sort of moderate wing of the party here in South Carolina, to weed out party chairs who aren't in their camp, county party chairs. And so they are going to be in charge of this election. They're going to be running this election. And so we're going to be keeping a really close eye on it, because let me put it this way, I wouldn't put it past them.
And we should note for the record, in 2012, Newt Gingrich, as a conservative, won a big victory over then establishment choice Mitt Romney. That was 2012. This is 2016. We'll keep an eye on it. Somebody I haven't mentioned yet in this conversation is Marco Rubio. Now, Mark, his campaign just released a new ad based on the Morning in American theme, but they had one major mistake in the production. Turns out the opening scene was filmed in Vancouver, Canada. Here's a portion of the ad.
It's morning again in America. Today, more men and women are out of work than ever before in our nation's history. And under the leadership of Barack Obama and Hillary Clinton, our country is more vulnerable, divided, and diminished than ever before. Why would we ever want 4 more years again of that?
Okay, so there's Marco going after President Obama and Hillary Clinton, but he's already had some trouble on border issues, getting it wrong north of the border with that video, Mark. Is that a big deal?
Well, first of all, I'm having a private moment, but let me just say this. I think that's floppy work. I think amnesty is Marco's Achilles heel. There's no question about it. This is coming down to the elites versus the establishments, JD, and the Teflon Don continues to win no matter what he does.
Tara, let me turn to you. We've seen some polling that says Rubio is on the rise. That is performance in the debate, even though he claimed Senator Cruz couldn't speak Spanish, and we saw Ted respond with very fluent Spanish, that somehow Rubio is going to catch fire. Are you seeing any evidence of that?
Yeah, not catch fire per se, but it's a mathematic thing. Like, for instance, we've had one poll in South Carolina, two now actually, one poll in South Carolina with Rubio ahead of Cruz in second place. Another poll today where they're tied, the public policy poll. And then there's a poll out of Virginia where Rubio is in second place. And if you do the math and you take Kasich's numbers and you take Bush's numbers and you add them on top of Rubio's numbers, he and Donald Trump, and maybe a few of the Ben Carson folks, you add them on top of Trump's numbers, Trump and Rubio run neck and neck. And if you saw that poll that came out recently, 46% of the Republican Party feels betrayed by their leadership, but the other half is just fine with it. So there's really a 50-50 split in this party. And I think that once we get down to two candidates, you're going to see, quite frankly, a bloodbath between the two sides, and one will win.
And it's going to be really interesting as we count the days down to Saturday in your primary in South Carolina. Tara Servatius in Greenville, Marc Rotterman in Raleigh. You have our thanks. You heard what they had to say. Agree or disagree? Why don't you send me your comments at newsmaxtv.com/comments. We'll be right back.